On this episode of Book Reports Podcast,
there's always room for cello,
Team the Other Guy,
Alan Jackson Jacobs,
neti pot,
How Many People Have to Die Before I Die Too,
and much, much more.
Merry Christmas and welcome to a very special Christmas special of Book Reports Podcast. I'm Sam Tyler.
I'm Bryce Diener.
And on this very special Christmas special of Book Reports Podcast, Bryce and I are swapping presents. So, Bryce, Here is your present.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, Sam, you got me the entire encyclopedia of feet.
Yes, Bryce, I knew you would love it. It's the pictorial one. I'm glad you like it. I hope you enjoy the chapter on toe funguses through history. Oh, and Bryce, present you got me. Well, say it's the junior novelization of Jumanji. Thank you, Bryce. That's perfect. Thank you.
How did you afford this incredibly expensive book about feet?
Well, I'm also curious about yours. I mean, this has been a very expensive year for you.
I had to sell my glasses, actually. You'll notice that my face is
not your reading glasses.
Metallic, yes.
But Bryce, you can't read the book without them.
I'm realizing the irony now.
Oh, I'm touched, Bryce. I really am. Well, I also won't be able to use your book because I sold my eyeballs. Merry Christmas! And scene. Well, welcome to Book Reports Podcast. I think what we just got everybody was the underwear in the stocking. I think that's what that was. Well, after that nice little turd you found in your stocking, we have the actual present you wanted for Christmas. This podcast, we are joined by a very special guest, Caitlin Moody. Thanks very much for showing up on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited about this.
Thank you for sitting through all of that just now. That's real dedication, real dedication. Compared to some of our other guests, you have a very special qualification being on this show because you've actually listened to it before. So that's a nice changeover for us. Yeah,
I enjoy it very much. I think you guys are very hilarious.
Oh, well, thank you.
I like to listen to it when I'm in the car or when I'm doing housework too.
That seems to be the theme. Jared was folding laundry in episode 3, so I think we need to start marketing ourselves towards housewives.
Bryce and I are shirtless right now, and we are
vacuuming.
Yeah.
And ratings through the roof.
That's about it. All right. Anyway.
Now, not that this is going to affect the rest of our episode or our friendship, Caitlin.
Okay.
Who's better at podcasting? Who did you enjoy, since you've listened to every episode, whose sections do you enjoy listening to more?
Why? Why you put me on the
spot? Bryce has been looking for an excuse to break our friendship in half. And
yes.
He's grabbing hold of it
right now. You guys have
been
friends for a long time. Why would you want to do that? I like you both equally. Like, I think you both are really funny. Like, you both have, like, the same comedic, like, hilarious, sarcastic...
Now, there is one question we do actually ask all our guests.
Okay.
I'd like to know, what kind of books do you tend to enjoy reading?
Romance, I guess, but also like science fiction. Like, I did a lot of that stuff too.
Very nice. That's pretty cool. Is there any overlap at all in taste between science fiction and romance? Like, have you found any books that really fit that Venn diagram?
I guess, like Twilight. I loved Twilight. But then I also liked, like, you wouldn't call, like, Hunger Games science fiction. More like fiction.
Because it's fact.
Yes, because it's happening right now.
No.
Wake up, sheeple.
You think American Ninja Warrior just happened out of nowhere? Come on, kids. Wake up. Wake up. Bread and circuses.
I do want to say, since you mentioned Twilight,
are
you Edward or the other guy?
Edward.
What's his name?
Jacob.
Okay, here you go.
The sexy man wolf? No.
I really want t-shirts now that say Team the Other Guy. I think that would really, really sell really well.
I guess not. Just like really kind of like Twilight type deal.
Okay.
But I haven't really gotten into like that type of stuff more. I'm more like, you know, people like falling in love or not. I don't know. Like, I'm like all over the place. Like, I also like biographies too. I was going to read it too, but I was like, man, they'd have to give me like a year.
Stephen King can be a little bit of a slog at times.
I do like him though very much. Like, I'm very a big Stephen King fan, but his books are really terrifying. I can only read so far.
I tend to prefer Stephen King's shorter fiction. Like, he's got some good short stories. I think he kind of undercuts himself.
It turns out the real Shawshank Redemption was friendship.
We all read down here. Hey, Brycey.
Yeah, I got some good books for you down here.
Oh, okay, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I'll go with you. Here, have my arm.
Yeah.
Into the sewer drain, you say? Okay. Makes sense.
Tell me more, librarian clown. Tell me more. Merry Christmas, everybody. Yes. Merry Christmas.
book that I have chosen for this episode is Drop Dead Healthy, One Man's Humble Quest for Bodily Perfection by A.J. Jacobs. And I want to start out by just giving a quick disclaimer. I love A.J. Jacobs. I have almost every one of his books. In terms of my list of favorite authors, J.K. Rowling is first, A.J. Jacobs is second. So I am definitely going to be biased towards him. Feel free to ask me things that I didn't like about the book. You're not going to get an answer.
Challenge accepted.
I do love A.J. Jacobs. I was first introduced to him through his book, A Year of Living Biblically, where he read the entire Bible in a year and then wrote down every rule, whether it was ridiculous or he thought helpful or anything like that. And he decided to live out every single law that the Bible gave out. And so he did it in a very humorous way, an insightful way as well. That sparked my love of A.J. Jacobs. He also went on to The Know-It-All, which he read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica in a year, which is a lot harder to do than the Bible because there's a lot more books. He just was that guy at the party that would always be like, hey, did you know that crustaceans do this? With Drop Dead Healthy, he wanted to pursue all these fringe ideas of health as well as the main staples of health and the benefits of...
This was over a year as well?
Yeah, this actually took him 2 years.
Oh, okay.
This book did. But I'm sure there's still benefits that he is living off of. Like, maybe he's probably still exercising. I haven't talked to him. Asked him.
Not in a while.
Yeah, I haven't asked him.
It's a busy time of the year for him, Christmas. He
hasn't returned my pen pal letters. I think it's ironic because the first day of the month that I picked this up for this reading, I got incredibly ill, very sick. So I was definitely following the drop dead part. And my stomach was like, oh, you want to throw up? I was like, no, I was just going to pick up this thing. It's like, oh, so you want to throw up? I was like, okay, I'll just sit here for 6 hours. You're right, stomach. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Take a seat, son. This book had come out in 2012, and I had read it when it first came out. I think this is one of the first books that I actually went to a bookstore, paid full price for.
Oh, Bryce, please.
I know.
Not here.
Holy cow.
Come on, Bryce. There's young listeners listening to this show.
Probably spent $26 because I like A.J. Jacobs that much. And I realized that rereading this, there was a lot of stuff that he had done in the book that I realized I adopted into my own life. For instance, like picking...
Before reading? Or
after reading this, I started doing it, and it became so like a staple of my life, I forgot where it came from. And then when I'm rereading this...
Why am I eating so much kale? I don't get this. What am I doing?
I hate it.
You find yourself unable to swallow unless you chew 60 times.
That's right. Like using smaller plates. Like he borrows his son's like dinosaur plate, so it's like a child size.
That's just what you should do anyway, because dinosaurs are cool.
And then he uses a shrimp fork. And so, like, if there's a big meal or something like that, I was like, oh, I better pick the smaller plate. So that way, even if you go back for seconds, you're still not getting as much. Another thing that he did, too, was he wore, like, noise-canceling headphones just in everyday life just to kind of protect his ears. And I adopted that mostly when I mow the lawn.
Are you listening to music through them or the actual noise?
I do listen to music just because I think that kind of helps out.
Okay.
I don't know if it drowns out the lawnmower because I'm still
you're
assaulting my
ears.
ears.
You're replacing it with another noise.
Though, to, like, when you're mowing, like, to dance.
Here's the thing, though. I listen to Book Reports podcast exclusively, though. So
you're fine then.
Yeah.
Right, your ears are healthier.
Perfect for the ears.
If you listen to Book Reports podcast, your ears will outlive you.
Yeah.
They're still going to be listening on long after you're gone.
Just have it blasting at your dead.
It may bring you back to life. Now, when you say he wore noise-canceling headphones, was that just when he was alone, or was it...
No, it was out in public.
That's what I was going to say.
He was, like, embarrassing his wife by, like, wearing these, like, just giant, like, Princess Leia level...
Oh, yeah, I was a couple feet ahead from him.
Made me wonder, because his style is very much the, look at how inconvenient and silly this is, but it actually has some practical applications, it feels like. So I was just kind of wondering.
Inside the flap here, I'll show you guys the photo. Listeners, I know you love when I describe photos. This one is way too extreme. He's covered in carrots. He is holding broccoli. He's got ankle weights. He's wearing like a vest that is filled with all kinds of like hand sanitizers, sunblock, all this kind of stuff. It's incredible. A couple sections here I wanted to share. This first one here, he ended up joining the gym, got a personal trainer, and so he gets this really big like buff guy, like the after photo that you see in like ads, that kind of guy. The guy's name is Tony, and so he's talking to Tony. He was like, he's saying, I want to be like one of the buff guys, and I want to like look tough. Let me tell you something, says Tony. Those aren't all they're cracked up to be. At this point, Tony lets me in on a fitness industry secret. Those glossy time-lapse photos are often snapped not months apart, not weeks apart, but on the exact same day. Shave the chest, slather on oil on the pecs, suck in the gut, and ta-da, thought you have a brand new body. You don't even need Photoshop, or even better yet, the ad companies scour the local gyms till they find the most shredded guy around. They snap his photo, they pay him $10,000 to get fat, and then they snap his photo a month later. When they print the ad, they simply reverse the before and after pictures. Point is, it's a lot easier to get out of shape than it is into shape. I took that as an encouragement. It's like, when you see these commercials of before and after photos, they didn't take this supplement or they didn't buy this exercise machine.
They were already like that.
Yeah, and so it's hard work. And so that's
why bother?
That's right. That's an encouragement to me. It's like, oh good, I don't have to waste my money or my time. I'm just going to remain the before photo.
Because isn't being before something way better than being after it?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, folks. Yeah. Think about that.
If someone's farts, do you want to be before them or after them?
That's a really good point.
That.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah. Words to live by. Words to live by.
Towards the end, I think he got more towards like the fringe stuff, but he still remained at the gym.
Do you think that he found more efficacy in the fringe stuff or the mainstream stuff from his perspective, do you think?
I think it was just a real toss-up. I think there was...
Interesting.
There's some stuff that he found on the fringe that was helpful, and some that he just thought, this is ridiculous. He had talked about stress, outsourcing your stress, and a fan emailed him saying, hey, I remember you talking about this idea in a previous book. I'm a college student. I'm just very stressed out about it. Why don't you worry for me, and I'll worry for you, and let's just see how it goes. So they did it for a month. She would worry about his deadlines, his projects that he had to work on. He would worry for her, and so it was interesting because as soon as he starts to stress out, he's like, oh no, she's got this. I don't have to worry about this. You did mention, too, that if your stress gets to a certain point, anything that you do health-wise is negated by it. You can spend hours a day exercising, but if you're completely stressing over how much calcium is in your shake or how many calories are in this whatever, you're stressing so much and you're causing yourself so much angst and spending so much time worrying about it that you are negating any health benefit that you are getting from that walk or from that protein shake. And I thought that was interesting.
I could have just read this book instead of being paying $200 to see a food therapist.
That's right.
Yeah. Why didn't you just ask us about what books we were doing?
I should have.
Come on, Caitlin.
He went to laughing yoga, and so instead of like the stretches and stuff like that, they tried different types of like ha ha ha, ho ho ho, hee hee hee, stuff like that. Yeah. Like they would partner up and now snicker, like you just got away with something sort of thing. It's yeah. And so you're just like laughing in this person's face. So here's a little paragraph he had about that. The health benefits are huge, he says, talking about his instructor. Laughter lowers the level of the stress hormone cortisol. It boosts immunity and reduces pain. A University of Maryland study found that big laughers had a 40% lower rate of heart disease than non-laughers. Though to be fair, that could be because heart disease doesn't put one in the jolliest mood. It is even good exercise. A Vanderbilt researcher found that 15 minutes of laughing burns 40 calories. So listeners, if you enjoy our podcast, congratulations, you're going to live forever. If you don't like our podcast, you deserve whatever heart disease you get. This is your own fault.
Well, that makes me curious then. Did he find that laugh yoga was helpful to him?
I think that's one of the things he went into reluctantly. Mm-hmm. Like he's like, I don't know if I really like this at first, and so he's faking it until like halfway through he actually did like chuckle and he started getting into it a little bit, and then some lady critiqued his laughter and he's like, who are you to critique me? You jerk. That's the only laughing class that he mentions he went to, so I don't think he went back to it. But a lot of the stuff that he felt that he enjoyed, that he felt was helpful, he would continue to do.
How did he judge how effective things were? Did he do like regular checkups with a doctor?
Yeah, he did have doctor checkups as like a whole team of doctors that he had. Towards the beginning of the book, he created his own treadmill desk. He bought a treadmill, and he jerry-rigged it in a way that he could prop his laptop on top.
Right.
He gives monthly checkups, like how many kale chips I ate this month, 46. And it's like, he just gave like weird facts, but he also gave like his weight, he gave his blood pressure too. So he gave helpful information, but also ridiculous stuff like that. And so he mentioned, I'm going to write the rest of the book on this treadmill desk. He gives mileage. I think he got well over 600 miles writing this book, which is really incredible.
Wow.
Now, did he find himself healthier at the end of writing this book?
His blood pressure definitely dropped. His weight definitely dropped. It's not all about weight loss, but weight loss does help because he was building muscle mass, going to the gym, doing all these physical things. He said that when he would run errands, he would literally run errands. So if he had to run across town, he was literally running there.
What was your favorite bizarre thing that he did?
When he got sick, he used a neti pot.
Nice.
I've never used that. I think it's gross.
Really?
Bryce,
but
someday I'm going to force you to use a neti pot. It is something you need to do before you die. It's so effective and then pleasant.
It is.
It's incredible.
It is.
Listen, for those of you who don't know, just a quick explanation. A neti pot is basically a device that you can stick water in and then stick up your nose. Squirt all the water into one nostril so that it goes out the other one. And it is a hoot and a holler and a half, let me tell you. It really cleans out your sinuses, and it is amazingly awful to go through. And you sound hilarious if you have the bathroom door closed, let me tell you.
You have to open up your mouth while you're doing it too, or else the water's going to go back into your throat.
Now, Bryce, when you brought this book up, you brought up a very fine question that I feel like I have to ask you now. What didn't you like about this book?
Boy, I mean, I hate health. I mean, it's definitely not a subject that is my favorite. Like, if he wouldn't have done a health book, I would not have been emailing him, AJ, you need to... I love health so much. You need to do
Tell me how to make a treadmill desk. I need to know this information, please.
He does give that information in the book.
Fantastic.
Buy the book.
No reason not to get this one.
Learn how. So I think just like the subject matter, I wasn't that interested in it. If it wasn't AJ Jacobs, I wouldn't have read this book, I don't think.
How would you rate this book compared to his other ones? Like you said, the subject matter was interesting, so how's that compared
there
to
is a fourth book, My Life as a Human Guinea Pig. If you like AJ Jacobs, but you don't want the whole subject, he does a different experiment on his life. So he does 12 experiments.
Per month?
Per year.
Per year.
In 1 year, he does 12 different ones. So each month
so
is
one per month.
I could have just said it that way. If you write down the number of experiments and the number of months, you'll realize that they're equivalent because it's both 12.
First person to send us the correct answer gets a mention. Heck, anybody who writes into us gets a mention.
Anybody.
Anyone, please.
I would say that A Year to Live in Beverly is still my favorite of his books. And then I would say The Know-It-All. Then I would go Human Guinea Pig. Then I would do the health book. And he has another one out where he follows genealogy. I haven't read that one. AJ, if you'd like to send it to us.
So you heard it, AJ. This is Bryce's least favorite book of yours. He thought it was terrible compared to the other ones.
Until you send me the new one.
Then that'll be his least favorite.
Again, I think it was just subject matter. I'm not big into health, so... But I mean, again, like, I'll read anything by A.J. Jacobs. The whole reason, like, A Year of Living Biblically, I've been a Sunday school teacher for almost a decade now, so I can relate to the subject matter a lot more. I'm also quite a know-it-all myself, so I related to that book as well. I haven't read the encyclopedia, but I know where it is in the library.
Under E. Yeah.
I will say this, I did not look up what AJ stands for. I'm sure at one time I knew, like if you look it up on Wikipedia or something like that.
Let's just give him
Probably
one.
like Alan or Alec. Alan Jackson Jacobs.
Alan Jackson Jacobs. That's even if that's not what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
you
what
got it.
It has to
Alan
be.
Jackson Jacobs.
It has to be.
Drop dead healthy. Well, Alan, we enjoyed your book. Thank you very much for writing it.
Yes, thank you.
So, Caitlin, what book did you read for us this month?
I read If I Stay.
Which is also what you're feeling right now about being on this show.
What would you do if you had to choose? So it's about a girl who has basically everything kind of going for her. She lives at home. She's 18, about to get ready to go to college, and she applied for Juilliard. She got in. She plays the cello since she was like 8, 9 years old. Like, picked it up. Her dad was this, like, he was in this rock band. They were, like, semi-famous. And so that's
the best kind of rock.
Yeah, in Portland.
Did they have, like, a small, economic car? And she's like, Dad, my cello's not going to fit. And he says, there's always room for cello.
Oh! Ooh.
They did have a station wagon.
Oh,
I'll leave.
No, I'm adding that. That is the best thing you've ever done.
It's all downhill from here.
I don't think we need to record any further. I think we
Caitlin, thank you for bringing your book. It was a
great
book. There's always room for cello. Well done. Well, man, that's...
Totally lost. Oh, anyway,
Portland,
so Portland, and he's like semi-face. Semi-face. Semi-face!
I have semi part of it.
Horrible cello accident.
One of the strings snapped, cut his face
What'd
off.
you say, Dad?
Semi-famous rock band in Portland, and like the one day they went to music class and she saw the cello. Like everybody else was like picking everything else up, and this cello is just sitting in the corner, and she just goes over and she's like, I want to play this. Her dad ends up selling his drum set to get her the cello, and she's played ever since. But in this whole time, like, she's telling the story while she's in a coma. because they got in a car accident. And it, like, in the beginning of the book, it tells you that they're in a car accident. So, like, you know that's what's happening. Well, her dad became a teacher. After he quit the band, he became the substitute teacher.
Oh!
He cut his long hair, covered up his tattoos.
We're going to rock out these numbers.
Yeah. School of Rock. School of Rock.
AKA The Music Man, by the way. Same movie. They
have a snow day, and the mom, the dad, and her little brother, Teddy, they all go to their grandparents' house, and a truck ends up coming and, like, annihilating their car. So the mom died on scene, and then the dad died on the OR table. But, like, she's in a coma, and her little brother is just, like, unconscious, but here he dies in the hospital. He had a hemorrhage in his brain, and so she's the only one left. This whole book is her telling you stories of, like, her memories. She falls in love with this rocker guy in this famous band, like
not semi-famous, but famous.
No, yeah, like
step
they're
up,
moving
up in the world,
right? So she
just imagine what kind of substitute teacher he'd make. Better than her dad, I bet.
After he graduates high school, that's when they become more famous. So, like, they're starting to grow apart. You know, they break up, but they're still, like, in love with each other.
Wait, they break up in the coma?
No, they break up, like, before.
In
like,
the
memories.
Yeah,
because it's, like, they're all memories. Like, she...
So it's collections of memories put together into chapters?
It is. Okay. It is. And it's just, like, all one. Like, her boyfriend, Adam, ex-boyfriend, Adam and her best friend, Kim, are at the hospital. And she's explaining, like, what she's seeing. Because she's, like, having this whole outer body experience. So she can see everything.
Oh, okay.
And, like, can't... like,
and
nobody...
interlace with memories.
Yeah, like, and nobody can, like, see her. Or, like, touch her.
Not 9:15 a.m. Kim stands by the candy machine. Cannot decide between... between Cheetos.
Larry steals 8 gloves from the medical supply cabinet, blows them up into roosters, throws them around my hospital room. Did the cello make it out okay?
They didn't have the cello.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh. Okay.
But...
is the cello okay?
But this whole time, like that, the day that it had happened, the whole snow day, she was waiting for the letter from Juilliard.
Oh, right.
And while she's in her coma, her boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend or whatever, her man... decided to her
man
went to the house, got the letter, and like he told her while she was in a
read
coma.
her mail. That's a federal crime. That's a federal crime.
That's exactly what I thought when I read this book too.
Once you become bae, you're legally allowed to open both his mouth. It's a special legal position.
Was she like, oh, Chell, no?
But this whole time she's also in a coma. Like this anesthesiologist is taking care of her in the ICU. She's telling her basically, like, it's your choice whether to stay or not. Only you can make that decision whether you want to stay or whether you want to go. It's all up to you.
Interesting. Okay.
That was really kind of upsetting. I like teared up at that part. And I was like, oh no. All these people that she knows, like, comes and says, like, you can stay or if you want to go. But she doesn't realize that she's in a coma either. Like, she's not, like, grasping this whole concept. She's, like, dead, but she keeps going back to her body and yelling, like, at it. And then her brother dies, which is upsetting for her, and then she wants to leave.
Wait, so she's having this out-of-body experience. She can see that her... Are they in the same room?
No, like he's in the
out of body. She can be
pediatric.
out of room too, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she walks throughout the whole entire hospital. She just can't leave. If she wants to try to leave, there's the white light. She wants to keep going towards it, like towards the end, like after her brother dies.
So is the major plot line of this book then, or the major struggle, the idea of whether or not she's going to go back to life or whether or not she's just going to pass on?
Because her family's gone. Like, she has her grandmother and her grandfather and, her boyfriend and everybody, like her friends and stuff. And
her cello.
And her cello.
You have so much to live for. You got to play me one more time.
Think of the cello.
But she wants to go because her parents aren't there and her brother's not there. So she's like, what do I really have to live for? She does end up waking up. Basically, like, she wakes up and her boyfriend's like, Mia? And then that's it. That's the lady who wrote the book.
Her name wasn't even Mia.
Gail Foreman. Gail Foreman is the writer. So, like, you think about it at the end and you're like, gosh, Gail, why? Why would you end this book like this? But then there's a second book that goes along with it.
At least Gail gives her real name. What are you hiding, A.J. Jacobs?
Yeah.
What are you hiding? You said this ends with the boyfriend saying Mia, but I heard there's an additional ending to this one where they throw a party and they sing, for she's a jolly good cello player. I can do it too.
Did this make you think in your own life, who are the important people? Who are the... After a certain point, if people that I cared about were all killed already and I'm given the choice, like, am I going to go towards that light, or are there enough people that I want to come back to life? Like, what is that line?
how many people have to die before you want to die too?
Sure.
Is that the question?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. But I mean,
did it raise those existential crisis questions for you?
I put myself, like, in her shoes, kind of. What would I do? Like, I don't know how you would choose, like, whether or not you should stay or you should go.
That is an interesting question to think about. How many things in my life have to go away before it's not worth living? The cello stayed, so I'm guessing she's going to stay too.
Yeah.
What perspective do you think the author is coming from in this? Like, do you know anything about the author going into this book that she chose to write this?
Not really. I tried to look some stuff up, but, like, a lot of her books seem to be the same way, and she always does for Nick. Finally, always. Like,
that sounds a little bit of an epitaphy kind of thing.
Yeah, like...
Epitaphy. There's a word everyone uses.
It's so salty.
Epitaphy.
I get it when I go to the shore.
This month, the book is The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris. This book is 750 pages long.
Oh my word.
And it only covers the first 43 years of Roosevelt's life. From when he's born to when he gets the telegram saying that President McKinley is dead, and since he is the vice president, he is now the president. 750 pages, and it doesn't cover his presidency. Roosevelt did so many cool and crazy things. This book is so riveting and exciting, and it just moves because of the subject matter. It just makes you love him more. Absolutely does. There are so many cool, crazy, wonderful things that Teddy Roosevelt did. The book covers his years as an assemblyman in New York.
What?
Sorry about that. As an assemblyman.
A synonym?
As a synonym in New York. A lot of words meant the same thing as him. As an assemblyman in New York State. His years raising cattle out in the West. His years as police commissioner of New York City, which we'll talk about later, because that is just fantastic.
Checking every,
Does it seem like he accidentally does better in a day than I would if I tried?
Yes. Oh, did you think I was done? His years as the head of the Civil Service Commission, his years as Secretary of the Navy, his days as the governor of New York State, and finally his years as the vice president. And I'm sure I've left tons and tons and tons of things out. There are so many things that he did, it's ridiculous.
It seems like being vice president and president are an afterthought to his entire life.
Honestly, for him, vice presidency was a step down. Because he was the governor of New York, and he only did it to support the Republican Party. He really, really didn't want to be vice president, but he kind of was like, you know what? I like campaigning. I guess I'll campaign for vice president. So he was in it for the campaigning. That's the really cool thing about this book is there are so many things for him to talk about. This book could easily have been double the size, and it still would have been fantastic. Edmund Morris did such a good job of including as many interesting things as he could, and always keeping it exciting and moving and riveting. And there are so many really neat bits and pieces of Roosevelt's inner life that are reflected in the work. One of the real fun of this is to see how he develops as a human being throughout the book, because he's Roosevelt. He's excitable. He is full of energy. He's doing everything he possibly can at all times. But one thing that was kind of a common note, in our lives we have tragedy, and Roosevelt had some real big ones in his life. And whenever he has tragedy, his reaction is always, let's go have an adventure! Immediately. It's the bigger the downfall, the bigger the exciting thing he goes out and does. When his wife and his mother died in the exact same night in the same house, he decides, you know what? Let's go raise cattle in the West. Let's go on a massive hunting trip on the way there, too. And let's really just go for it.
So it's not that he's running away from his problems, it's that he's diverting, maybe?
I don't think you can say he's not running away from the problems.
Okay.
I think he's losing himself in a bigger and exciting challenge, which is really what drives his whole life, is looking for another challenge.
People deal with grief differently. It just seems like his is very an extreme way, and I think...
Where he just wants to pick up and go.
Yeah, if you're Teddy Roosevelt's, best friend or whoever his, closest confidant is, Teddy, maybe you should,
Well, his wife died in childbirth.
Right.
And his reaction was to leave during that child's first years of life, basically.
Oh, so the child survived.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, his daughter Alice did not see her father for most of her toddler years. Alice Cooper.
Oh,
that's what we're talking about. Yeah. The fun of the book is to just kind of see him develop as a human being, because he isn't just a caricature. There is a psychology behind it. But at the same time, even though we're seeing the man behind the myth, Edmund Morris is always giving us those fun, crazy, legendary details that just happen to be true. I've got...
Please, give an example.
A few excerpts here. Roosevelt is a noted naturalist and conservationist. Mm-hmm. This is his memories of something that happened to him when he was 7. It really sparked an interest in animal life for him. I was walking up Broadway, and as I passed the market to which I used sometimes to be sent before breakfast to get strawberries, I suddenly saw a dead seal laid out on a slab of wood. That seal filled me with every possible feeling of romance and adventure. I asked where it was killed and was informed in the harbor. As long as that seal remained there, I haunted the neighborhood of that market day after day. I measured it, and I recall not having a tape measure. I had to do my best to get its girth with a folding pocket foot rule, a difficult undertaking. Just imagine 7-year-old Roosevelt wrapping his arms around this decaying seal in the meat market days after it's dead.
Which, seals smell terrible when they're alive.
My question would be, like, why romance? Like, what was so...
Romance and adventure. He's using it in the idea of a romanticized world as opposed to actual, lovey-dovey romance.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more of
getting a little confused there. I'm like, why is this 7-year-old...
and then I kissed it full on the mouth.
Trying to bring it back to life.
It's causing, like, your heart to flutter and causing you to...
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Honestly, that is the same way he tackled problems the rest of his life, was hard work, no matter how gross it is, and just jump in and do it. Once he felt that call of adventure and that excitement, there was absolutely no way to hold him back from anything he wanted to do. Honestly, I could probably read this entire book out, and it would be fascinating, interesting, because this book is just that way. Probably my absolute favorite part of this book is his time as police commissioner in New York City. I read a really great comic book recently called Rough Riders, which posits that Theodore Roosevelt secretly led a band of notable adventurers like Calamity Jane and Harry Houdini and Thomas Edison, a little band of superheroes to stop an alien invasion in Cuba, and that's the real reason they did the Spanish-American War. And it presents Theodore Roosevelt as sort of like a Batman figure with like a mech suit who's solving crimes in New York City. As I was reading that book, I thought, yeah, this is a little far-fetched. Then as I read this book, it was like, you know what? That's really not too far off. Roosevelt was born with bad asthma, so he trained his body into, being in the peak physical condition. He mastered all kinds of different practices of history and just world knowledge in general. He was able to keep up with most experts. And during his years as police commissioner, he would roam the city at night in the worst sections of town to make sure that the policemen were actually on duty where they're supposed to be. And he would drag the 2 other police commissioners along with him. So Teddy Roosevelt patrolled the city at night just like
He was
Batman.
a vigilante.
Absolutely right.
And this wasn't like good street lights either. This is like...
No! Edmund Morris, the author, stays out of the way. He knows the subject matter is interesting. He knows he's done his research. He's put so many fun things in it. He doesn't try to glamorize it. He just kind of follows the man around and says, hey, here's what he does. And he does such a great job of putting all this information together and all these names together and being able to follow along the story clearly and concisely. He's doing the writer's job of presenting the information the best way possible. He knows he doesn't need to glamorize anything.
Does it seem like one position kind of led to another, like you were saying, like as he was governor of New York,
absolutely.
That the Republican Party very much pressured him into being vice president? Does it really show that his life choices led from one thing to another?
Yes, most definitely. He was, I believe, Secretary of the Navy, resigned to be Secretary of the Navy to go fight in the Spanish-American War, became the hero of San Juan Hill, leading the Rough Riders, came home, and everybody's like, you know what, you should be president. He's like, yeah, sometime. They're like, if we want McKinley to win, we need to have him on the ticket. So they're like, okay, you're vice president. Okay. And then he becomes president because McKinley dies shortly after becoming president.
Well, I believe he was shot, wasn't he, McKinley? Mm-hmm. Was there anything you didn't like about that?
Yes. The book is very nicely divided up. It's got a real style and panache, the way that he divides the chapters up. The name of each chapter is the name somebody calls Theodore Roosevelt. Like, the biggest man in New York is one chapter. Another chapter is the hot weather secretary. Another one is the most famous man in America, the man of destiny, and so on. These are all things he's called.
The man of
destiny. And it has a year, too. I see,
yes.
like, the years that...
Oh, very neat.
Yeah, it's very nicely divided. And each chapter starts off with a quotation from Theodore Roosevelt's favorite poem, King Olaf, which has a nice little foreshadowing effect. And considering how nicely constructed this book is and how much thought was put into it, every chapter is a name of Theodore Roosevelt except for one. And it's like, come on! Like, couldn't you just do every single one? Like, there's gotta be... One chapter is called The Snake in the Grass, and it's not referring to Theodore Roosevelt. And it's like, that That has
Are you sure?
Why?
I mean, we could just start calling him that now. Old snake in the grass.
Edmund Morris has had plenty of good things in his life. This book won a Pulitzer Prize. He doesn't need our help. But it just one little flaw. It's like, couldn't you have just gone the whole way and had every single chapter? I was like, well, who calls him a snake in the grass? Who calls him that? Oh, it's somebody else. Great job, Morris. Get out of here. So the one thing I didn't like is a petty, silly little thing, but it did kind of feel like, why couldn't he have just gone the whole way? But no, this book was excellent. The three things I look for in a nonfiction book is an amazing index, a specific subject matter, and lots of anecdotes. And this book has all three of those quite wonderfully. It's a fantastic book.
Do you think Teddy Roosevelt could be as well as Teddy Roosevelt is if he was alive today?
Like anybody, he's made up of his own time period. He could exist now, sure, but we wouldn't recognize him as this guy. He's an old New York crowd, very much that Gilded Age sort of upbringing. He's living in a time when the world isn't fully explored yet, and we don't have all these things. He's got that sense of adventure about him on everything he does. He has such a sense of imperialist pride. I think he would have been perfectly happy having an Empire of America. He mellows out on that quite a bit the older he gets, but I think he's so much a product of his time of excitement and patriotism, and just a desire to see America just grow as a global power. He mastered the world around him of that time period. I'm sure he could do just as well now. But
let me ask you this then. I'm keep cutting you off, Caitlin. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm asking the same questions.
I'm just listening.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Do you think that Robin Williams did a good job impersonating him in Night at the Museum?
Looking back, he did just fine. I think he was a little understated.
Robin Williams understated.
I think that'd be my one complaint.
That's incredible.
Just saying. Like,
Hey, hey. I have hairy arms.
I think if you were to... Oh, what's his name? Shoot. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Richard Dreyfuss. There was a documentary series where he read the letters of Theodore Roosevelt, and that was a good natural pairing. Like, if you look at the really manic, wonderful work that he's done of, just a man running all over the place, that seems like a bit more of a Theodore Roosevelt to me. That's a good portrayal, I think.
We weren't back for any of that, like the older presidents. Like, some of them were very good. Like, they had very good presidencies, and they did well. I mean, some of them, not so much. But
looking at you, Harrison.
Yeah.
Why don't you live more than a month?
When you consider his track record, he didn't make any major mistakes during his presidency, so there's that.
Harrison?
Yeah. Just not wearing a coat.
Yeah. That was his downfall. That ought to do it for Book Reports Podcast. But before we do our little outro, it is a Christmas episode, and I brought gifts. I should probably take a photo of these wrappings. Yeah,
this is such an astonishingly good wrapping job, Bryce.
Because are you a really crappy rapper?
I'm as good at rapping as a white guy is at rapping. So yeah, you guys can go ahead and open up your gifts. That's going to be great audio, all this crinkled paper.
I'm making as much noise as I can. Hey! Very
I got
nice,
you each
Bryce.
A very thick version of Uncle John's Bathroom Reader. I love these books. Just the way they're very quick, one page a thing you can just read. Also, tie in back to my book. A.J. Jacobs talks about reading on the toilet and how it's bad for you. You can create...
What's wrong with it?
What?
You can create...
hemorrhoids?
Hemorrhoids, yeah.
Asteroids?
So do not read these in the bathroom. Do not take your phone in the bathroom.
I don't see them as hemorrhoids. I see them as, like, book it badges. Just little, yeah.
Sure.
I've read another book.
If that's what you want, sure.
Well, thank you, Bryce.
Yes,
I shall whenever I poop, I'll think of you.
You already did. I want to thank Caitlin Moody for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really had a good time.
Thank you for being a fan in the first place. We are egotistical, and we need someone to listen to us.
Don't worry, I always try to get it out, too. I always like to blare it, like I said, in my car. I'll turn the radio all the way up. That way everybody can hear it.
It's a Book Reports podcast.
That is exactly what we want
I'll do it for the Halloween
do.
parade. I'll just, shove my car in there and just...
If you guys want to find us online somewhere, you can find us on SoundCloud or iTunes, or you can email us at bookreportspodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook under the same name. If you like Sam and what he does, skullduggeryinthesmoke.blogspot.com. Our theme song was written by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find more of his stuff at incompetech.com. Happy Saturnalia, everybody. We'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas. down quick. You should really have that looked at.
This Darnley always acts up during the fall. I don't know.
That might be the end of the episode. That was really great.